All right, coming up on this episode of Sound Culture, we have our first ever appearance of Don.
Yo.
And we're going to be talking about Radiohead's Kid A, their 2006?
2000
album. See, he knows better than I do. It's going to be a really good review because this is probably their most controversial but probably highest acclaimed album to date. So
Yeah, in my opinion, it actually might be their best. So hold your rifles. I know OK Computer is cute and all, but my heart's kind of with this one.
we're going to watch this one.
Hello.
All right, we're back for another episode of Sound Culture. I'm Tim.
I'm Don.
And we're talking about Radiohead's Kid A. Yes?
Yeah. So I wanted to start out by saying that my style of doing these reviews, we're going to go song by song. I'm going to break down sort of how I flowed into listening to each of these, and we're going to start out with everything in its right place. So this song starts out, and it's like this descending da 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 da, and then this keyboard part comes in, and it's like you just feel like you're already on another planet. Like it's like so otherworldly immediately, so intense. And you're just so into it, and you hear this it's like this muffled sort of, almost like radio. It's like a muffled sort of sound that's kind of bleeding over top of that intro riff, and I just say that it's such a deadly groove. It's just like you get into it so much. You hear Tom York's vocals come in with that everything. It just comes in so clearly. And you actually hear in the intro, it's like it says the name of the album. It's like Kid A. So it's cool. From the presentation immediately, you know that it's like they take themselves as this like art rock group. Like this is some kind of presentation that's going down here, and you're along for the ride. Like it's so deliberate.
And it's a very distinct shift from OK Computer in terms of like the sounds, and like Tom York was actually working with DJs and became a DJ himself in that kind of span between the two albums, right? So like you said, Don, it's a production.
Yeah, totally. I have this quote. I'm like, I just think as I'm listening to this, I say, am I listening to one of the best bands in the world right now? and I just that's what I think when I'm listening to that opening track. Now the second track, it opens up and it's like this really subtle keyboard part, and it's like just like little chiming keys, and it almost sounds like childish, like it's like a playroom or something. That's the feeling. The second track is Kid A, the title track. And that question where I ask myself, is this one of the greatest albums, or this one of the greatest bands? The second song, I'm like, yes, it is. Like it definitely is, because the keyboard part is so melancholy. It's like you feel sad listening to it, but then like the lower synth pad comes in, that do 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 do, and it's just like you feel sad, but like you're like grooving at the same time, and that's like what Radiohead is to me. Like it's like melancholy, but you like get down with it. Like it's so good.
They're really good at like getting a host of emotions out of you, no matter what track it is. Like you said, like whether it's Kid A or Everything Is in Its Right Place, or even further down the line, we'll get into them obviously. They always make you feel everything very intensely.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's deliberate.
And it's interesting too, because the title Kid A is also the name of this track, and they came up with this in a very non-sequential way. Like they just picked a non-meaning phrase and said like, hey, we're gonna call it Kid A because it doesn't mean anything specific. And maybe that's where like they're starting to like, well, you keep talking about the album, but that's where they're kind of exploring things. Cool.
So the other song, the next song is the National Anthem. This one I had to have kicks ass. It comes in, the bass and the drums are strong to start. It reminds me sort of an evolution of their sound from the Bends. It's a little bit more earthy, a little bit more rock band-like. And yeah, this one's, I think, a little less on the artistic, sort of like blow your minds side, and more just like we're trying to make a kick-ass song. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is too is why this album is, I think, and we'll keep echoing this throughout, Don, but the reason why this album is so entertaining is not because it's commercially viable. It's because all of the songs feel like self-enclosed music.
Yeah.
And even when they were doing like the promoting of the album, they said like, this is an experimental album. Like the guys in Radiohead actually said that. And for certain fans of like a certain age group or predisposition, like they warned them like, hey, you may not like this. Like they weren't trying to sell this to the masses. And because it came around the time of like digital streaming, it was in some ways, like, it's so weird because Radiohead had always shared about them. It was a predecessor for that reviewing things quickly and reviewing things early and getting in there and having an opinion about music. It was like they were making music that mattered too, which is why I said like it was polarizing. Like I mean, again, like it's pretty evident. Like Don has very strong feelings about this album because it creates those feelings.
Yeah, it definitely makes you feel. Fourth song on the album is How to Disappear Completely. I know this is a favorite for a lot of people, Radiohead-wise. This song is a great example of how you can have something so simple. The guitar part is just 2 chords. It's just like a D to an F sharp and F sharp minor. And it's just like the presentation of that alone, just, one voice over 2 guitar chords. It's like, you'd think that wouldn't be the most interesting, but again, this song's build is so great. Like it's all about the instrumentation, the subtleties of when certain instruments are entering where. Oh man, this one it's really subtle. That's what I'd say about this song. How to Disappear Completely. A little depressing, but it's nice craft on display.
Yeah, absolutely. So York actually came up with a lot of the lyrics by assembling words and phrases that were disparate from each other. So for example, it's like, where did you park the car versus let's cut the kids in half. Like there's a lot of that occurs, and like I think you're kind of making the point with Treefingers, like that's a great song that demonstrates that randomness of York's lyrics.
Yeah.
I think that's what I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, I think Treefingers is a song that you should play if you want your friends to think you're cool. Like if you play that song just like as mood music, people are gonna be like, "What is this?" They're gonna think you have a great taste. And then Radiohead's a safe choice to throw on in the background, anyways.
Yeah.
So the 6th song, Optimistic, that struck me as this doesn't sound like a Radiohead title. Optimistic. I usually don't feel feelings of optimism. But that's what I had to say.
Okay. It's an optimistic song.
Yeah. The lyrics, it's uplifting. It's like, you can try the best you can. You can try the best you can. The best you can is good enough. Like that's the lyrics, and that's what they're trying to say. And I actually, that resonates. It's nice. I feel like right around the 4-minute mark, 4 minutes like 20 seconds or something. The best part of the song kicks in. It feels like the part that the whole song was leading up to, and the thing is that you're not bored. Not once through that. No. At least personally through that 4 minutes. You're just interested the whole time. And in fact, this album's paced extremely well, just overall.
Yeah. And it's not only is it paced well, but it actually sounds. I know what you're saying. Like the song sounds like it's just got like a nice sound to it. It's almost like it's got the tempo of the song. I don't know. You can talk about the instrumentation of it, Don, but it's very cathartic. I find when I listen to it.
When you get to the end of it, it feels like there's a payoff.
Like there's a release almost.
So the 7th song, In Limbo. This is immediate. Wait, how much time is there? Like 7 minutes? Okay.
We're at 7 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 7th song is In Limbo, and this feels like a return to form for Radiohead. Their lyrics, you're living in a fantasy, and I'm lost at sea, don't bother me. So it's very much like, okay, it's internal, emotionally isolated, a little bit feelings of a little bit of depression back in here.
And I think that might be where we hear the references to them sounding like Elvis Costello or Suede. I think that might be like it's a little bit more of like not harmonic. It's a crooning Like he
Yeah.
croons on that track.
Yeah, Tom York's voice is something to talk about in a whole video itself. His tone is so bright. Singing technique is very forward, very nasal. Like he uses a lot of his nose when he sings, but to great effect. That's often a tip that you're given if you're ever in musical theater, that singing very bright and very nasally through your nose with this kind of gives you that like almost chipmunk sound, but he does it and it's always bright, and his voice cuts through the mix too. The other instruments, it doesn't feel like it's drowned. It's just a well mixed album as well.
Yeah.
So this one, it ends totally to bring in Idioteque. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, the really electronic track, but it's like spaceship noises. It actually reminds me of like Metroid, the end of this song in Limbo.
That's why I wore the...
it feels like you're getting taken into space, and then Idioteque is like, oh, we're in space now.
Yeah.
It feels so futuristic. It's like, it really gives me the feeling of like, oh, the 2000s, like this is the new millennium. That song is. The drummer, Philip Selway, he really gets his action going in that electronic production.
I just want to say something. Okay, so again, about the production of it and the fact that it's of the 2000s, that sounds like that time. There's actually, I have a really interesting anecdote about Napster, and we've talked about Brendan and I have talked about Metallica and Napster before, but I've never talked about Radiohead and Napster. They actually said that when they were asked like about people pirating or having their album leaked 3 weeks ahead of time, they actually said, no, this is awesome. You should absolutely steal this album, and it's free promotion. So Radiohead was saying something that artists like yourself are saying today, almost 20 years ago. They were saying, steal this album, get in there, make it, again, it's a futurist album. It's a very ahead of its time concept album. So I just wanted to mention that briefly.
So the 9th track on the album is Morning Bell. Now, this song, it's like gives me this like wistful but like yet happy feeling. That part that's like, release me, and then that bass part in the background, it's like this doom 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 doom. It brings me so much joy every time I hear that bass part. I don't know, it's the bass is understated but on point as a whole throughout this whole album. Understated, that may even be up for debate, because a lot of great bassists probably would say that this bass is like kind of showing off almost, but it's subtle. I think it actually does a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, okay, so I'm going to make a comment about the final track because I think it's really interesting and relevant based on the sort of chronology of what you've been talking about, Don. But Motion Picture Soundtrack was actually recorded well ahead and written well ahead of every other album that they've previously released. So it actually precedes Creep. Wow. And it was actually set to 1950s Disney movies. Like they're trying to emulate the sound of things like Snow White.
Oh.
And it's got that organ in it too, right? Like it's got that very orchestral, very...
Yeah, it sounds like an accordion actually, or something along those lines. And yeah, those cascading harp lines. It's like that. It feels like you're in a Disney movie. Like that, you totally. I have a message. I'm like, am I in heaven? It feels like you're dead, or it's like the end of the album, or there's a finality to this song. Totally.
Yeah, and they're just trying to showcase the mixing of the new with the old. And again, just to echo kind of the anecdotes I've been peppering through as you talk about the songs, is it's really Radiohead saying like, hey, this is the future of music. This is if anybody were, and again, this is what we said earlier, it's like if people were talking about how great this album was and how much it affected them and how much digital streaming was going to start to become a thing, and you had to review this and get in there and really have an opinion on it, like Radiohead knew that about the music, and they actually wanted to create this amazing soundscape. Yeah. So I think they accomplished that. But you had one final...
Yeah, there's actually... I got the album, or I'm listening to it from Apple Music, so there's actually an 11th track that isn't even listed on the physical album, and it's called Untitled, which is lame. But it's sort of another one of those ethereal sort of wash of there's like some synths going on, and it's kind of like, and when I listen to that, it's like, oh, is it over? Like, is it over already? It's only a 47-minute album, so it actually goes by quite fast. And like I said, like we talked about the pacing, it doesn't feel that long. It feels like when you get to the last track, it's like, this is the last song already. And
no, it's very tightly constructed, and despite the fact, or in spite of the fact that every song is unique, it flows well.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I love this album. I actually say that people always say that OK Computer is the top dog, but I think that OK Computer might reach higher peaks. But overall, I think that Kid A is a more solid album. Every song on Kid A is just so solid. Whereas I feel like OK Computer has some songs where it's like, you get a little bored. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But yeah, overall, that's what I think about this album.
Yeah. No, and I think I share that opinion. It's a very good album. I rank it up there in terms of my favorites. I mean, I don't know which one my favorite of all time is, but definitely I think I count it in the top 5, along with OK Computer and In Rainbows and A Moon-Shaped Pool. I actually really like that one too. But that said, I hope you like this. I hope Don's energy infects you to go and listen to Kid A, because it is a really solid album. And
be sure to subscribe.
Yes.
Like the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And leave a comment. Let us know what you think about some of these tracks. I mean, this is a first for me on this channel to really talk about specific tracks. So what did you think of the format? Give us some feedback. And thanks for watching Sound Culture.
Thanks.
We're going to be talking about Radiohead. I almost forgot who they were. Radiohead's Kid A, their eponymous. Actually, is it eponymous? It's like a hip hop. It's like a hip hop autonomous.
Yeah, a hippopotamus.
Hip hop. Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say. I'm gonna try that one more time.
Yeah, no worries.
I stumbled on my words. Because eponymous is usually when it's like related to. I always mix up the meaning of that word. Yeah.
I actually don't know the meaning of that word.
Rhyming rhopsis and hippopotamus.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's start one more time.
Okay, yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, on the count of 3, 2, 1.